Hi, this is Pete Lyons with Let's Play Salesforce, and in tonight's Einstein Analytics video, we are not going to be doing a tutorial. We are actually going to be covering a topic that is very, very important to me and very close to my heart. And I've got a guest presenter here to tell us all about this. Now, normally I do avoid putting my opinions on my channel if it doesn't relate to Einstein Analytics or Salesforce in general. Usually we're not going to talk about it, and the reason why is because when I was a kid, my mom taught me that if you don't have something nice to say, keep it off of YouTube. But I think that this is an excellent case for why I need to make an exception for that and help voice this information, because what we're going to be learning about tonight is the polio epidemic that was successfully defeated or almost completely eradicated and is now starting to make an ugly comeback because of people with a bad idea. And the only way that we can fight bad ideas is with good ideas and with good data to substantiate those. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to my guest tonight, Piyush, who is going to walk us through what he's built.
Thank you, Peter, for giving me the opportunity to present my story. My name is Piyush, and I am based out of Toronto, Canada. And with this demo, I want to tell you a story of how I've used data and how that relates to polio, and then how we as human beings have combated polio for years. So that is my story. So what you see on the screen right now is a empirical view of how polio existed starting from 1911 till 1969. So as you can see over here, these two metrics are giving us an idea of some of polio cases and some of polio deaths. And you can see that there was a spike in 1916. And the reason for this spike was polio was believed to be spread by different means, and what was the actual cause, nobody knew. So the interesting story behind this is that because people did not know, people started making assumptions that, hey, polio could be caused by cats, and that led to killing of around 70,000 plus cats. And then some people started thinking that polio is caused by mosquitoes, so they started spraying insecticides and DDTs and things like that. But like all diseases, and they spread, and then people get immune to it. So what happened is that the spread of the polio virus happened in the States, and then over the times, the people got immune. And then the other thing was the spread would only happen during the summer months because of the moderate climate. So many people were infected by polio, and they became immune. So that's why you see that there's a bit of a drop in the curve over here. But as we progress through the years, and when we go over here to say 1940s, you can see a certain spike. Now that spike is happening because, as people were immune down the line, the immunity wore off, and polio came into prominence, and then it led to a massive chaos, and people started again living in fear and thinking that it's being caused by some sort of an element, which led to again the fact that, okay, it might be caused by cats or by mosquitoes or by some sort of other entity. But around that time, and you can see that in 1952 was the biggest hit, where some of polio cases were on like 57,000. And the deaths were on like 3,145 in the States alone. But if you see over here in 1955, that's when the polio vaccine was introduced, and that was introduced by Jonas Salk. So what he did is his vaccine kind of protected people against polio, and it was highly effective when towards central nervous system. So because we know that polio is a debilitating disease, it affects a lot of the systems in your body. So Salk's vaccine kind of combated polio and prevented the CNS. But then and you can see that once it came to production, you can see the effects, and the polio cases started to go down. The number of polio deaths went down. There's a certain spike over here, but then you can see that, yes, as people as vaccines were administered properly, the immunity was built up, and it was a long-term immunity, not like what you saw in the previous years. And then you can see that the oral vaccine was introduced, and this was introduced in 1961 by Dr. Albert Sabin. And what happened with this is like the OVPs, that's what we call it. So OVPs made it, the administration was really, really easy. And OVP protected a person not only from the CNS attacks, but also it protected the digestive tracts. So so that was like a huge relief that now polio vaccines not only can cover one system in your body, but it can, in its completeness, affect all, like protect all the systems in your body. And then you can see that as the production began, OVP was widely administered across the United States. And you can see, as the data is showing us over here, is that the number of deaths, the number of cases kind of went down over the time. And you can see that towards 1969, the total polio cases were on like 33 and total number of deaths were on like 7. So that is, how polio spread in the United States, and this is the empirical view of that data. Now, so that is what I wanted to show, and what I did over here is I had a small map view where I wanted to show like, hey, how many kids under the age of 1 year were administered polio. So I just picked countries like the United States, Vietnam, India, Sudan, Nigeria, and Afghanistan. So you can see that I have a time scale over here. I took the data from like 1981. And I can see that as I progress over here, let's pick a country. So if I select, say, Vietnam, you can see that in 1987, the total percentile of kids who were under the age of 1, it was like 45%. So 45% of kids were administered polio vaccines. But you can see that as we progress, as we advance in time, I can see that the number keeps going up and up. So what is this saying to us? This is saying that, hey, the medical associations all across the globe, understood the importance of the vaccine, understood the importance of human life, to be honest, because, nobody wants to deal with polio because it affects not only a human being, it affects families in a big way. And I think the WHO did a really good job in spreading the message of how you can fight polio and what measures you need to take, be it sanitation, because we know in countries, there are certain countries, there where sanitation is not an important thing. Hygiene is also really, really low. So they improved all these things. And then, yes, vaccination push was a biggest boost for making sure that polio is kind of eradicated in these countries. And you can see that over the time, still being on Vietnam, if I go over to 2015, I see that, yes, there was a 97% of kids who were administered polio. So this is what I wanted to kind of show with this particular dashboard. This is a story I want to say. And then over here, I have this particular dashboard or widget, I should say, which is showing us the endemic state of polio in different countries. So what I did is kind of use a time toggle over here because I wanted to see like, hey, how was polio? Like how prevalent was polio? How did it impact the globe? So I took a time scale from 1910 till 2017 and I'll see what happens when I swivel this time filter. Now, if I just go back, say, to 1973, you can see that a majority of the population, majority of the countries on the planet were affected very severely by polio, right? And if I go, and you can see a bit of a color coding over here, you can see yellow. What it's saying is like these countries were polio free, but they were not certified by WHO because they were still doing some sort of proof checks and making sure that polio is completely eradicated. But let's go a bit further and let's see. So you see, like in 1962, almost all the countries had polio. It was a widespread disease. But as we progress in time, and this is with introduction of the vaccine, after 1962, that is introduction of vaccine, you can see that the state is changing a bit in the States. in North America, to be precise, in Canada, in the United States. So we can say that yes, vaccination was a bigger boost. Improvement in practices related to sanitation and hygiene and personal care, all that awareness kind of led to eradication of polio. And as I go further in the time, I can see that yes, now most of the countries are polio free. WHO recognized all these countries to be polio free, but you can see that there are some countries still, like India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, still in the red color. And what really was surprising to me is that some advanced countries, like India, even till 2011, were not polio free. It's only like in 2017 is when they were completely approved by WHO, and they were marked as, okay, you guys are polio free and you're good to go. But still, there's like an ongoing battle in countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan, and over here in Nigeria, where the battle is still going on, and all the medical associations are doing their best to kind of eradicate polio from the face of this planet. So this is the story which I wanted to, present using data, using Einstein Analytics as a platform, and how data and how vaccination has actually helped human race to kind of prevail and win against this disease. So yeah, that's my story.
Wow, that's really, really awesome. And it's amazing to see just how clear of a story the data tells us. I also really like the usage of chart markers on the first visualization to point out these are the relevant historical events that are contributing to this change. So it's really hard to fight numbers like this. And that's the power of data. It tells us the truth, provided, of course, we have clean data. I mean, I can't speak for what some people's Salesforce orgs look like, but the WHO's data sets on polio are pretty tidy. So this is going to be one of the few times that I ever ask you to share my channel with people who are not Einstein Analytics enthusiasts and are not even into Salesforce. Everybody needs to know about this, because together with the power of data, we can defeat a bad idea that cripples children and destroys lives. I'm also going to put some links in the description to some related content. For example, I recently watched an excellent documentary on Jonas Salk and his quest to cure to create the vaccine. I'm also a big fan of Kurzgesagt's In a Nutshell, and they also too recently did a video on vaccination as well. So I'll put links to those in the description. But Piyush, I wanna just thank you again for putting this together and for coming on the channel and sharing this content, because I know it's not like anybody's paying you to do this. This was something you did in your free time.
It's my pleasure, Peter. Thank you so much. And one thing which I forgot to kind of mention when I was showing this is that these scientists, Salk and Sabin, when they invented this vaccine, they did not take royalties for this. Just imagine, they did not do it. They did it for the well-being of the human race. Had they had taken any royalties or said or patented this, they would be billionaires. Like their families would be, like the richest people on this planet. But they did not do it. So that tells us the impact this disease had back in the day, and how people were concerned to get rid of this. So that's one thing which I just wanted to kind of mention. But yeah, thank you, Peter, for giving me the opportunity to come on your channel and present my story. Thank you so much.
And thanks to everybody who has watched this video. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see more content like this, let me know. I know it's a little bit off-brand from what I usually do, but again, this is a story that needs to be told. So please like, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell your family, and tell people you don't even like. But as always, thanks for watching.